All right, so this is our last video. It's another short one that we're going to do for chapter 2, and we're going to be talking about characteristics of chemical change. Here's our two goals. At the end of this video, you should be able to distinguish between reactants and products in a chemical reaction or a chemical equation, and distinguish between exothermic and endothermic changes. And there's a few examples in your homework for this week where you can answer some questions asking if things are exothermic or endothermic, which we'll talk about in a second. So when a chemical change occurs, remember we talked about that the starting substance is destroyed and a new substance forms, okay? So chemists describe that using chemical equations, which look something like this, okay? So again, chemical change old is old substance is destroyed and put my A there. Okay. So in a chemical change, the old substance is destroyed and a new substance is made. All right. So you could probably write that a lot neater than I did just there. So again, just to reiterate, chemists describe that process using similar chemical equations to the one we're looking at now. So in this case, we have carbon plus oxygen giving us CO2 or carbon dioxide. And here, all right, let me change my color. The carbon and the oxygen, all right, are the beginning substances. All right, they're the guys that are starting off this reaction, okay? We put carbon and oxygen together, basically. And so these substances are called the reactants, okay? And they're always on the left side of the chemical equation, okay? They're always on the left side of the chemical equation, or this arrow, I should say. So they're always on the left side of this arrow here. Oh, sorry. Okay, so they're always on the left. That's supposed to be F, left side of the arrow. Okay, those are the reactants. Over here, these are the end substances. Okay, and those are known as the products. They're the thing, it is the thing that is produced by the reaction of carbon and oxygen. It's what we end up with. And it's always on the right side of the arrow. Okay. So again, you mix carbon and oxygen, that's our reactants, that's our starting substances. Yields or gives us, that's the arrow, carbon dioxide, CO2. That's our end substances, that's our products. Here's another example down here. This is the decomposition of water into hydrogen and oxygen. So over here, water would be the reactant, And now in this case, we have two products, not just one. Okay, so that's just an example again of chemical changes or chemical reactions. So let's see here. What about this exothermic endothermic thing? So in an endothermic reaction, excuse me, let's step it back a second. In an exothermic reaction, okay, in an exothermic reaction, energy is released. So if you strike a match, right, and you hold your finger to the flame, you quickly learn that the chemical change in burning the match is releasing energy, right, which is that heat that you're feeling. So a chemical change that releases heat, or that releases energy, I should say, to its surroundings is called an exothermic reaction, all right? And sometimes this energy is included in the chemical equation. So this is our reactants, right? Again. And these are our products. And energy, if you notice, is a product. Energy is released. Energy is something that is the result of this reaction. Or let me say it another way. One of the products of this reaction is the release of energy to the surroundings. Okay, energy is released. So sometimes, though, it takes energy for a reaction or a process to happen. All right, so these types of reactions are called endothermic reactions. So these are endothermic, okay? Energy is required. So if you want to break down water into hydrogen and oxygen, you need to input energy into this reaction. So energy is listed as a reactant, okay? It's now something that we need to start with in order to get the reaction going. So another example would be the boiling of water in a physical change there, but still the same idea that it takes energy, right, to put into the water to get it to boil, to get it going, right? It doesn't just boil all by itself, all right? So it takes an input of energy. So as you go through the homework problems, ask yourself that question. Does this require me to put in energy for it to happen? Or is energy released by this process? Okay? So think about that as you do the homework. And that's just a very brief overview of chemical reactions and exothermic and endothermic reactions. And just once again, I'll say it one more time, is that in an endothermic reaction, energy is required, and in an exothermic reaction, energy is released. Okay, so I believe that's it for this video. It is, and please let me know if you have any questions.